You don't say you can't leave me out of weakness. You say it when you finally understood what it means to choose someone completely. Not halfway, not conditionally, completely. And most people will misunderstand that. They'll think it's desperation. They'll think it's dependency. But what they don't realize is, the strongest decisions in life are the ones where you accept the risk of loss, and still choose to stay. That's where real love begins. I've built companies from nothing. I've watched rockets explode after years of work. I've lost millions in seconds. And every single time the world told me to walk away, to cut my losses, to be rational. But there's something about believing in something, or someone, that logic alone can't explain. It's not about being blind. It's about seeing clearly and still saying, this is worth it. When I say you can't leave me because I truly love you, I don't mean I'm holding you back. I mean I've invested in you the way I invest in the impossible. I've seen your flaws, your fears, your chaos, and I didn't run. That's not accidental. That's intentional. That's rare. People talk about love like it's supposed to be easy, effortless, like if it's real, it just flows. That's a lie. Everything valuable in life requires friction. Rockets don't reach orbit without resistance, and relationships don't reach depth without struggle. The problem is, most people quit at the first sign of turbulence. They interpret discomfort as incompatibility. They confuse temporary emotions with permanent truths. But I've learned something different. I've learned that what feels uncomfortable is often where growth is happening. And when it comes to love, growth is everything. If two people are not evolving together, they're slowly drifting apart. That's physics. That's reality. You see, when I chose you, it wasn't just about how you made me feel in the good moments. It was about how I saw a future with you even in the uncertain ones. I don't operate on short-term thinking. I build for decades. And when I look at you, I don't see just who you are today. I see who you're becoming. And I decided, I want to be part of that process. So when I say you can't leave, it's not control. It's conviction. It's me saying I'm not done building this yet. I'm not done understanding you. I'm not done growing with you. And I don't walk away from things that matter. There's this illusion that love should always feel perfect. That if you're arguing, if you're struggling, if things get complicated, then maybe it's not right. But that's not how reality works. Reality is messy. People are messy. I'm messy. You're messy. And expecting perfection is the fastest way to destroy something that could have been extraordinary. I don't want perfect. I want real. I want honest conversations at 2 a.m. when everything feels uncertain. I want disagreements that lead to deeper understanding. I want to know the version of you that the world doesn't see. Because that's where connection lives. Not in the highlight moments, but in the raw, unfiltered truth. And here's the part most people won't tell you. Love is a decision you have to keep making. Every single day. Not just when it's easy. Not just when you feel like it. But especially when it's hard. Because that's when it matters most. I've had days where everything I built felt like it was collapsing. Days where the pressure was so intense it felt impossible to breathe. And in those moments I realized something powerful. The only things that kept me grounded were the things I refused to give up on. Not because they were easy, but because they were worth it. You are one of those things. When I say I truly love you, I'm not talking about a temporary emotion. I'm talking about a long-term commitment to understanding you, supporting you, and growing with you. It's not about possession. It's about partnership. It's about saying, I see your imperfections, and I'm not going anywhere. And I know that sounds intense. It's supposed to. Because anything less than intensity is just convenience. And I'm not interested in convenience. I'm interested in building something that lasts. Something that can survive pressure, distance, misunderstanding, everything. Most people don't experience that kind of love because they're too afraid to go all in. They keep one foot out the door. They protect themselves. They play it safe. But safe doesn't create anything meaningful. Safe keeps you average. Safe keeps you replaceable. I don't want average. And I don't see you as replaceable. There's a difference between needing someone and choosing someone. Need comes from fear. Choice comes from strength. And I'm choosing you. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because I've analyzed, observed, experienced, and I've reached a conclusion. You are worth the investment. And investments come with risk. That's the reality most people avoid. When you care deeply about someone, you're giving them the power to hurt you. That's unavoidable. But you also give them the power to elevate you, to inspire you, to make you better. And that trade-off, that's what makes it meaningful. If there's no risk, there's no reward. That's true in business. That's true in life. And it's absolutely true in love. So when I tell you that you can't leave me, understand what I'm really saying. I'm saying I'm not giving up on us. I'm saying I believe in what we have more than I believe in temporary emotions or fleeting doubts. I'm saying I'm willing to do the work, to have the difficult conversations, to face the uncomfortable truths, because that's what it takes to build something real. I'm not here for something temporary. I'm not here for something that fades the moment things get difficult. I'm here to create something that evolves, adapts, and grows stronger over time. You don't walk away from that. You build it. And maybe you're thinking, What if it doesn't work? What if all this effort, all this belief, leads to nothing? That's a valid question. It's one I've asked myself many times in different areas of life. But here's what I've learned. The biggest failure isn't trying and losing. It's never trying at all. It's walking away from something that could have been extraordinary because you were afraid of the outcome. I'd rather fail knowing I gave everything than live wondering what could have been. And when it comes to you, I'm not willing to live with that question. I've seen what happens when people don't fight for what they care about. They settle. They move on too quickly. They convince themselves it wasn't meant to be. But deep down, they know they didn't try hard enough. That's not going to be our story. Because I'm here, fully, completely, without hesitation. And I need you to understand something. Love isn't about never wanting to leave. It's about having moments where leaving feels easier, and choosing to stay anyway. That's strength. That's commitment. That's real. So when I say you can't leave me because I truly love you, I'm not asking for control. I'm asking for the same level of commitment, the same willingness to fight for something that matters, the same belief that what we have is worth the effort. Because it is. And I'm not done proving that. Not even close. You know what's interesting? People think love is proven in the big moments, the dramatic speeches, the grand gestures, the kind of scenes you see in movies, where everything pauses, and suddenly it all makes sense. But that's not where real love is tested. It's tested in the quiet moments, the ones no one sees, the moments where nothing feels certain, where emotions are unstable, where doubt starts to whisper louder than logic. That's where most people fail. Not because they don't feel something, but because they don't understand what they're feeling. They confuse discomfort with incompatibility. They assume that if something feels hard, it must be wrong. But if I applied that logic to everything I've built, nothing would exist today. Every breakthrough comes with resistance. Every meaningful connection comes with friction. And when it comes to you, I've felt that friction. I've seen the moments where things weren't perfect, where communication broke down, where expectations didn't align. But instead of seeing that as a reason to walk away, I saw it as data, information, something to understand, to improve, to refine. That's how I approach everything in life. I don't run from problems, I analyze them, I break them down, I look for patterns. And when I do that with us, what I see isn't failure. I see potential. Potential is one of the most misunderstood concepts. People think it means something isn't good enough yet. But in reality, potential is proof that something is worth building. It means there's something there, something strong enough to grow, to evolve, to become better over time. And I don't ignore potential, I invest in it. That's why I'm still here. Because when I look at you, I don't just see who you are in your best moments. I see who you are in your worst ones too. I see your doubts, your fears, the parts of you that you try to hide. And instead of that pushing me away, it makes me understand you more. Most people only want the polished version of someone, the easy version, the version that doesn't challenge them. But that's not real. That's temporary. Because eventually the real version shows up. And if you're not ready for that, everything falls apart. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for the version of you that's still figuring things out. The version that overthinks, that hesitates, that sometimes doesn't know what to do. Because that's human. That's honest. And honesty is what builds something that actually lasts. You don't build a future with someone based on perfection. You build it based on understanding. And understanding takes time. It takes patience. It takes effort. That's why when things get difficult, I don't step back. I step in. I ask questions. I listen. I observe. I try to see things from your perspective, even when it's uncomfortable. Because that's what growth looks like. It's not always smooth. It's not always easy. But it's necessary. And here's something most people won't admit. Sometimes the person you love will hurt you. Not intentionally. Not because they don't care, but because they're human. They have their own struggles, their own fears, their own internal battles that you might not fully understand. The question is, what do you do in those moments? Do you walk away? Do you decide it's not worth it anymore? Or do you pause and try to understand what's really happening beneath the surface? Because I've learned that most conflicts aren't about what they seem. They're not about the words being said in the moment. They're about deeper things, unspoken expectations, past experiences, fears that haven't been addressed. And if you don't take the time to understand that, you end up solving the wrong problem. I don't want to solve the wrong problem with you. I want to go deeper. I want to understand why you feel the way you feel, why certain things affect you the way they do, what matters to you beyond the surface level. Because that's how you build something real. Not by avoiding difficult conversations, but by having them. And yes, that takes effort. It takes energy. It takes a willingness to be uncomfortable. But that's what separates something temporary from something that lasts. Anyone can stay when things are easy. That doesn't mean anything. The real question is, who stays when things are complicated? Who chooses to work through the confusion, the frustration, the uncertainty? That's where commitment shows up. And I'm committed, not in a passive way, not in a let's see what happens kind of way, but in a deliberate, intentional way. The same way I approach every important decision in my life. I don't leave things that matter to chance. I don't build something halfway and then walk away when it requires more effort than expected. That's not how success works. And that's not how this works either. When I say I love you, I mean I've made a decision to stay, a decision to understand, a decision to grow with you, even when it's not convenient. And I know that kind of intensity can be overwhelming. It's easier to keep things light, to avoid depth, to not think too far ahead. But that's not who I am. I think long term. I see possibilities before they fully exist. And with you, I see something that most people spend their entire lives looking for without ever finding. Something real. Something that isn't based on surface level attraction or temporary emotions, but something deeper. Something that has substance. Something that can actually last. And I'm not willing to lose that just because it's not always easy. Easy doesn't build anything meaningful. Effort does. Understanding does. Consistency does. That's what I'm bringing into this. Consistency does. 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 Difficult. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'm not walking away. Because I know what we have isn't something you just find everywhere. It's something you build. And building takes time. It takes effort. It takes commitment. And most importantly, it takes two people who are willing to stay, even when leaving feels easier. So no, this isn't me trying to hold you back. This is me choosing to move forward with you, and hoping you choose the same. Because I'm not done with us. Not even close. And here's the truth most people avoid. The final stage of love isn't passion. It isn't excitement. It isn't even happiness. It's responsibility. Not the kind that feels like a burden, but the kind that comes from understanding that what you have in front of you is rare, fragile, and incredibly valuable. People want the feeling of love, but they don't want the weight that comes with it. Because real love asks something from you. It demands consistency when your emotions fluctuate. It demands clarity when your mind is full of doubt. It demands presence when everything else in your life is pulling you in different directions. And that's where most people break. Not because they don't care, but because they're not prepared for what it actually takes. I've spent my life building things that didn't exist before. And every time there was a moment where the excitement faded and the reality kicked in. The realization that this isn't just an idea anymore. It's something that requires discipline, focus, and long-term commitment. Love is no different. In the beginning, everything feels natural, effortless. You don't have to think about showing up. You just do. But over time, that changes. Not because the love disappears, but because it evolves. It becomes deeper, more complex, more real. And that's the moment where you either step up, or you walk away. I don't walk away. Not when something matters. Not when I see potential that hasn't fully been realized. Not when I know that what we have is stronger than the temporary emotions trying to disrupt it. You have to understand. I'm not here because it's easy. I'm here because it's worth it. There's a difference. Easy is replaceable. Easy can be found anywhere. But something that challenges you, that pushes you, that forces you to grow, that's rare. That's valuable. And you are that for me. You challenge me in ways I didn't expect. You make me think differently. You make me question things I used to be certain about. And that's not something I run from. That's something I respect. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you're pushed beyond what's familiar. And you've done that for me. So when you start to doubt, when you start to question whether this is right, whether it's too much, whether it's sustainable, I want you to shift your perspective. Don't ask yourself if it's easy. Ask yourself if it's meaningful. Because those two things are rarely the same. Meaningful things require effort. They require patience. They require a willingness to stay committed even when the initial excitement fades. And that's where we are. This isn't the beginning anymore. This is the phase where things become real, where emotions are tested, where commitment is proven, where the idea of love turns into the reality of it. And reality is always more demanding than imagination. But it's also more rewarding. Because when you build something real, something that has been tested, something that has gone through difficulty and survived, it becomes unshakable. That's what I want with you. Not something temporary. Not something that exists only when everything is perfect, but something that lasts, something that grows stronger over time, something that we can look back on and say, we didn't give up when it got hard. We stayed. We figured it out. We built something that most people never experience because they weren't willing to go this far. And I know that kind of commitment can feel intense. It can feel overwhelming because it requires you to let go of the idea that there's always something better, something easier, something more convenient out there. It requires you to choose and keep choosing. And that's not easy in a world where everything is temporary, where people are constantly looking for the next best thing, where walking away has become normal. But normal doesn't build anything extraordinary. Extraordinary requires a different mindset. It requires you to say, I'm not here for something temporary. I'm here to build. And building means staying when things get uncertain. It means communicating when it would be easier to stay silent. It means understanding when it would be easier to judge. It means choosing each other, over and over again. That's what I'm doing. I'm choosing you. Not just in the good moments, not just when everything feels aligned, but in the difficult moments too. In the moments where it would be easier to walk away. In the moments where doubt tries to take over. In the moments where nothing feels certain. Because that's what makes it real. Anyone can love when it's easy, but real love is proven when it's not. And I've proven to myself, again and again, that I'm not someone who gives up on things that matter. I adapt, I learn, I improve, and I apply that same mindset here, with you, with us. So when I say, you can't leave me, because I truly love you, understand that this is the final layer of what I'm trying to express. It's not about control. It's not about fear. It's about certainty. It's about knowing that what we have is worth the effort, worth the time, worth the energy it takes to make it work. It's about recognizing that real connections like this don't happen often. And when they do, you don't walk away. You protect them. You build them. You fight for them. Not in a dramatic, destructive way, but in a calm, consistent, intentional way. Every single day. Because love isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily one. And today, I'm choosing you again. Not because I have to. Not because I'm afraid of losing you. But because I've seen enough, experienced enough, understood enough, to know that this is something I don't want to lose. This is something I want to build. With you. And I'm not done. Not now. Not tomorrow. Not anytime soon. Because what we have isn't something temporary. It's something that if we choose it, if we commit to it, if we put in the effort it deserves, can become something extraordinary. And that's not something I'm willing to walk away from. Not even close. And if one day, everything goes quiet, no words, no arguments, no noise, just distance, I don't want that to be the end of us. I want that to be the moment we remember why we started. The moment we stop reacting and start understanding again. Because love isn't tested when everything is loud and emotional. It's tested in the silence. In the space where you have a choice to drift apart or to come back stronger. And I'll always choose to come back. Not because it's easy, but because it's you. Out of everything I've built, everything I've risked, everything I've fought for, this is one of the few things I don't want to lose to time, ego, or misunderstanding. So if you ever feel like walking away, pause. Not for me, but for what we've created. For the late-night conversations, the unspoken understanding, the moments that didn't need words to be real. Because those things, they don't happen by accident. They happen because two people chose each other again and again, even when it wasn't simple. And I'm still choosing you, right now, in this moment, without hesitation, without doubt. Not because I'm trying to hold on, but because I believe, in you, in us, in what this can become. So no, you don't have to stay, because I said you can't leave. You stay because you feel it too. Because deep down, you know this isn't something ordinary. This is something rare. And rare things aren't meant to be left behind. They're meant to be built, protected, and lived, together.